Hey there. I am here with my sister, Tracie Decker. Yes, hyphen.
And I am here with my sister, Emily Guy Birkin. No hyphen.
And together we are doing Lightbringers, where we illuminate the deeper meaning of the crime-solving devil TV show. And yes, we're overthinking it.
It's what we do.
It's what we do. Tracie just had to stop me from overthinking something completely unrelated, because we only have so much time. There's only so much time, and we're here to overthink Lucifer.
Time is a construct, and yet it is the only container in which we can proceed. So, all right. So
that was quite profound.
I'm always overthinking it.
Which are our 2 episodes today?
We get the 2 bonus episodes from season 3, 325 and 326, Boo Normal and Once Upon a Time. Although actually, I'm looking at the episode list, and only Once Upon a Time is listed as a bonus, but I'm calling Boo Normal a bonus because it didn't make sense in sequence. So
no. So I will. I think I read that because if you recall earlier this season, I was saying
that there were extra
4 that were from season 2.
Yeah,
I actually think there might have been 4 from season 2 and 2 from season 4. And that would actually make sense because about 20 to 21 episodes is a typical season.
Right, and we have 26.
And we have 26. So if there were 4 that were supposed to be for season 2, and then there was, and I can't remember.
I thought 22 was a typical season, like was a full season. Because 13's
21. I thought it was 21.
I don't know. You can tell we actually work in the biz.
Yeah. So I just remember 24. The TV show only had to add like 3 extra to make it 24.
Oh, that every hour, right? Okay.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it would make sense of what I read, I think this week, was that they had already filmed Boo Normal and Once Upon a Time when they were canceled. And they're like, all right, just
tack them on.
It's like the bonus fry when you go to McDonald's and you're like, I've eaten all the fries. They're like, oh, in the bottom of the bag, there's a bonus fry. I wasn't expecting it. It's delicious.
Mm-hmm. But it's a little bit, bit cold. It's a little bit distinct from the other experience. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't taste quite like
the fresh.
I will say my first watch through, my binge, it had already been saved and was already on Netflix. And season 4 already existed. And I had read that these were bonus episodes. So I skipped them. I leapfrogged right over them because I was like, I need to know what happens next.
Yeah. So my experience was that I didn't know that. And I was like, what the hell? just kept going. I was like, I want to know what happens. And I watched them, but I was like, what the hell is this? I missed everything because I was just like, get to the good stuff already.
And that's actually, I'm very glad that we rewatched them because I was able to enjoy them. Now, even though I had watched through and then come back, so I didn't have that. Like, I see a lot of people talking about who, they're introduced to Lucifer once it's on Netflix, don't know that about those and are just binge watching and go like, wait, I'm sorry, what happened?
Right, exactly.
So even though I didn't have that experience, I still was just like, once I got to them, it was after the end of season 4, and I was still like, I need to know what happens next about, for season 5. And I was just like, this is not, I mean, it's good, but it's not what I want. And so watching this time, I got to be like, no, these are solid episodes of Lucifer, and I'm really glad to watch them.
Yeah.
Even though I wish they could appear in a place where they don't feel so out of place.
I think Boo Normal could easily have been slotted in somewhere earlier in the season. But
I don't think they knew, I mean, if they were going to do that, they would have had to do that once it moved to Netflix.
Right. Because when they released it, they thought they'd been canceled. Right.
Yeah. So, and it's one of those like, what are you going to do?
Yeah. All right, so let's dig in. Let's overthink them a little bit.
Dig in. Boo Normal.
Yeah.
So, Charlene Yee as Azrael is inspired.
She's brilliant. it's
inspired, because you would never expect the angel of death to be anything other than like badass, scary, creepy,
and like a total goth girl, like Death from the Sandman. But yeah, she's not those things.
Not at all. She's
just a nerdy mensch. I don't know how to describe her. Yeah.
Well, she's exactly someone who would befriend Ella. There's a reason why she loves both Lucifer and Ella.
Yeah.
You can totally see that. And then you can also see why she'd be the right angel for the job of death. Because you need someone gentle, I think. And to I don't know, gets interested in individuals while still having some distance. I don't know. I like, if she looked like what we expected, like Grim Reaper type thing, that would be too scary.
Well, also I think because of the cosmology of the show, that the great before and the great after, the great beyond are both actually, like, when we have that full scope in our minds, like, death is actually just a transition. It's not actually an end. And so it makes sense that it's not this, like, it's more this Azrael and less Maze, which is, sort of what's expected with a demon blade and whatever, which is in line too with Neil Gaiman's storytelling. I just mentioned Sandman, which now that the new series is available on Netflix, I'm partway through. No spoilers, y'all. Although I read the graphic novel, so I guess I've already spoiled it for myself. But one of the things that's really interesting to me that I've been thinking about with Azrael and Death is that, like, both actually are needed in Gaiman's cosmology. Like, the one, like, Death from the Sandman is actually there at the moment of death. Then it's Azrael's job to take the soul to where its final spot is.
Final destination.
Yeah. Which I think is really interesting that those two jobs are different. But both of those characters, Azrael in this series and Death in the original, in the Sandman series, are actually really, like, open and friendly and compassionate women in this case. And so I'm appreciating that from the mind of Neil Gaiman.
Yeah, I can recall. I have not read all of Sandman. I've only read the first issue series.
I read them, but it was 20 years ago. I think volume, because they were originally like the actual comics, but then I read them in volumes.
Yeah. I read the first volume, and I can recall there's a point where Sandman follows Death on her round, and not a whole lot has really stuck with me, but that, like, there was
the man who says Shema, and the child,
who says, "That's all I got," and she's like, "Sorry, that's
how it goes sometimes."
It's how it goes sometimes, yeah. And that's like, just really stuck with me. Also because she is so, like, patient, like she's very gentle with the baby. Like, those are terrible. It's a terrible break. I'm sorry. And then the man who says, like, it never occurred to me that I would actually say the Shema, but I'm glad I had a chance to do it. So yeah, it was. And for those who don't know, the Shema is the prayer that every Jew is supposed to say upon waking, upon going to bed. And is it just before death, or is it on the day of your death?
Ideally, it would be the final words on your lips. And so like, I have seen, like, it's kind of adorable, like, Orthodox children at, like, a water park, like, say it at the top of the slide in case they die on the slide, because it's meant to be the final. I'm sorry, that's not funny, but I just think it's adorable. So it is the central prayer of the way that the faith has turned into a religion. Yeah, the central prayer. So it's the one, Hero Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. Yeah.
So, it is that. So let's get back to the show.
Yeah, that's where I was going to bring us to.
Ray.
That's where I was going to bring us to.
Yeah.
So Ray. Yeah.
I love her cat sweater.
Adorable nickname, cat sweater.
I am a dork as well.
The whole costuming for her was just wonderful. There's something really compelling to me about the way when she explains to Lucifer in the last scene, like how she only ever gets to interact with them when they're dead. Humans, I mean, and they're so morose, and like Ella is such a different,
just a ray.
Yeah. There was something really compelling about that, especially within the context of this show, where we've seen these celestials repeatedly kind of start at arm's length and kind of like condescend to humans, and then grow to really appreciate and love us. And so to have the angel of death sort of name that, that like how much more alive we are when we're alive was just, I don't know. It was satisfying to me for that. Yeah.
It was, I also appreciated that the episode starts with Ella arriving at the crime scene.
Yes.
And so we get to see her morning routine, basically. And, that her chipperness is...
And her connection with all the people. I have to say, though, overthinking it, like, how did she know all that stuff? Like, what did we... Like, I was led to believe, and maybe I misperceived it, that we were watching her arrive at the crime scene for the first time, but then she already knows all this stuff about what's happening. Like, did she come back to it? Did we miss something that was missing in the montage?
Supposed to be I think that was the montage, and then I think we were supposed to have, like, she was taking pictures, and then like time passed before.
I'm too literal. Like, I wish they had actually said 2 hours later, and then I could have like followed. I don't know. That was like an overthinking moment for me. That was a little bit problematic.
Yeah. I get that. Would her camera work? Like with the flash and everything?
I don't think so. That's one of my least favorite, actually, Lucifer-isms is the dick pic joke. I don't...
Well, because who's he sending that to?
I don't know. I mean, there was one episode where he talked about the Roosters, the Prize Roosters website. Maybe he's sending it there, but I don't know. I appreciate and enjoy the sexual Lucifer, but the crass Lucifer, the dick pics, I don't like that. Like, I think part of his appeal is the elegance. And obviously elegance can be sexualized, but there's nothing elegant about dick pics. I just don't.
Nothing.
It's my least favorite joke about him.
Yeah. Fair enough. It's also like at this point, because that's leaning into like the adolescent humor, because he is kind of an overgrown teenager. But we're 3 years in. He's kind of
past that, at least at work. And especially because then what is that the consequences of dick pics on the forensics camera? Ella's the one who's going to pay the price for that, not him. So that did not land well.
Yeah. And the suit he's wearing,
that tan
in this episode,
brown suit with the blue,
awful. Not a fan.
Sort of like baby diarrhea brown.
It washes him out. It's just awful.
It's not good. Yeah.
It's sanitarium linoleum floor brown.
It's hard to find something that isn't flattering on Tom Ellis, but they managed with that color.
I know.
Yeah.
So, but let's talk a little bit about the case.
Yeah, sure.
I have an overthinking moment. Okay. The way they solved the case is Beckett, the scamming 14-year-old girl, was not actually faking her tears because she's allergic to freesia. And so Chloe goes to interview the mother, who wears a freesia perfume, but she hadn't been there.
Right. Well, presumably it was all over her family.
The kid had been there.
Yeah, it's a little tenuous.
Yeah. So,
especially because the report from Dan was that the place reeked of it, which would imply that the mother herself had been there when in fact it was the dad. Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. I think that's fair.
So, and that could have been just, like this is already shown to be kind of an unpleasant 14-year-old kid. So when she's like, it reeked of it. And
True.
Like, she could have just said that because it was enough to trigger her allergies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was the entire, that B story of Dan losing Beckett.
And then Lucifer losing Beckett. Mm-hmm.
It was weird. Like, it felt like did Six Flags sponsor the show? Because I really don't understand. It was very, very odd. Not that the kid getting away from Dan and playing him like that. I'm totally down with having that storyline. I think it's interesting. Could be an interesting story, particularly where it gets to where he finally gets through to her and she's like, this is serious, and it's okay if you made a mistake. But the whole Six Flags thing, and then when they needed Maze to track her down, but they didn't. They really only needed her for a ride. Like Maze didn't have to do anything to drag her down. They just went back to walk. They could have gotten a bus, and then they wouldn't have had Maze making fun of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Although Maze's reaction was,
yeah, it was good. I think though for the mirroring that they do, they needed Lucifer to make a mistake that even Lucifer would admit was a mistake. And so losing the kid and having her steal his car, I think.
Yeah.
After having roasted Dan for the same mistake, I mean, that was the storytelling function that it serves, so that at the end when he confronts Azrael and she says nobody's perfect.
Okay, fair enough.
So I think that was like the wicket that story knocked over.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just realizing how thick this episode is because we also have furries in this episode.
Yeah, and Ella's so like, I don't know, I'm a normie. I mean, that's a normal person.
That's a normal person. I have to. So I recently took my youngest, my 8-year-old, to the Renaissance Fair here in Wisconsin, and in the time since you and I went to Renaissance fairs when we were teenagers in the 90s, and now you're going to find more furries at the Renaissance Fair, which makes sense. It was new to me. And we were in the Kings and Queens, meadow, whatever they call it. And there was a knight fully dressed in a furry costume.
And armor?
And it wasn't armor. It was like a tunic that had a
okay. But a furry.
Not a shield on it, but
okay.
Yeah, but a furry.
Okay.
Fully.
Uh-huh.
And my son was like, "Oh, let's go over, let's look at him." And the furry, I don't remember what he did, but he did a bow or something like that. And then his the mouth opened and closed.
Oh,
fancy. So, which was pretty cool. It was pretty fancy. And my son was just like, "Oh, how'd you do that?" And the mouth opened and closed again. And he's like, "Give me a high five." So my 8-year-old was just so excited. And I was like, all right, in 20 years, if he is going to furry conventions, they'll know what the origin story is. So, which I won't mind, except that I know that they've got a Nazi problem among the furry community. So, not that there's not a Nazi problem in most every community, but
yeah,
the My Little Ponies have a...
I know, the bronies, I know.
So anyway, that was a long tangent. Just that, I find the furry phenomenon really interesting in a way that because I just can't wrap my head around it. But I also, I love me some cuteness. So I can't see myself ever.
It's too much effort for you, Em.
There's
no way.
That's it.
I mean, you and I can barely be bothered to like, I don't know, brush our hair for this show. Like, we're not going to like maintain a costume like that,
Yeah. Well,
I can't brush mine because it would take the curls out, but you know what I mean.
I noticed in the scene where Chloe's wearing the Wesley furry costume, at some point when they're having the fight, there's a little girl there wearing a unicorn onesie of the kind that I desperately want, where I'm like, that is the kind of thing I can get.
So that's the level of effort that you're willing to put into this. See, that's just it. I think secretly you want to be a furry, but the barriers are just too high. That's actually how I feel about goth. I want to be goth, but I do not have the effort or attention to do the work. That's a lot of work.
Well, and I'm also thinking like the thing over your head. It just that seems like it would be so
hot.
sweaty.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
Not a fan.
All right. So I know it was supposed to make me laugh, but and I guess it did make me chuckle. But the fact that Lucifer knew the angel of death was in town because Ella said, "Smell you later." I mean, especially because that implies that like 10,000 years ago or whatever, the angel of death was already saying it because they haven't spoken. They've been estranged since the rebellion. Yeah. That's what we're led to believe. But all those eons ago, Azrael was already saying.
In what language?
Smell you later.
Like, I mean, would it have been Aramaic? I don't even
know.
Like
some Proto-Semitic.
Urdu?
No, not Urdu. Urdu's from the subcontinent. Yeah, no, it would no.
No, what am I thinking of the Indo that language?
Yeah, some Indo-Semitic. Yes, agreed. Yes.
That's where I got Urdu. Was because I was thinking Indo. So yeah. So
and her nickname was already Ray Ray back then.
Ray
because she said, "What, you're too cool to call me Ray Ray now."
Yeah. I now am like, you know what? I feel like you and I need to figure out how to say "smell you later" in Hebrew and just have that.
I actually can figure that out. I
mean, I know it wouldn't be that difficult since Hebrew is a dead and then resurrected.
Exactly. Cool. And so I could just speak one of those. Speak to one of
any of our 15 subscribers happen to be Israeli.
Yeah.
The actual case, instead of it being a reflection of Lucifer, it's a reflection of Ella this time, because she has to come to terms with the fact that she's different, and that's okay. In the same way that the little boy, the violin player, is different, and that's what makes him amazing.
Yeah. Nice.
So, which was pretty cool. Although and storytelling wise, and it's a solid episode even with this. I hate you introduce a problem at the very beginning of the episode that out of nowhere that is resolved by the end of the episode. It's very Brady Bunch. Oh, my little brother's moving back to Detroit. Oh, I'm gonna have to move back to Detroit. And they needed an inciting incident. They needed a reason for Ray Ray to come back. And it's a well written episode. That is just something I'm very sensitive to in stories where it's just like you just introduce this problem to immediately solve it. In the same way, I really hate it in books where they try to raise tension when killing off a minor character you've never met before by giving that minor character immediate backstory before they die. It's just like, no, you haven't earned it.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you watch those elimination competition creative shows. My spouse and I have realized that if you learn a whole lot of backstory about one of the characters, they're going home that episode. It's just, that's how it goes. Yeah. That's how it works. So
yeah, it's just, and it's a storytelling shortcut that sometimes you need.
Yeah.
And I'm very sensitive to where, Like, you haven't earned this. And I wish there had been something like we've been introduced to our younger brother before. We know that she came out before him in some ways. I wish there had been something at some point earlier about the possibility of him moving home.
Yeah.
So, but I do also want to say that in defense of this episode coming right after Devil of My Word and Quintessential Deckard Star, except opposite order, Chloe's reaction to Ella saying, "I see ghosts," was amazing and perfect. And it kind of goes to show that, like what we were talking about before, where Ella is not so much about shipping Pecker or Decker Star. She just wants her really good friend who she looks up to be happy.
Yeah.
And so that really kind of, and it makes me, because I know that Amy Garcia is about the same age as the rest of the cast, but it allows me to be like,
I think Ella is younger.
Yeah. And so because I know Amy Garcia is about the same age, I kind of forget sometimes that she's supposed to be younger, but I think it's much clearer now. Like, oh no, there's definitely, like, there's the hero worship aspect of it.
Which Ella is prone to.
Oh yeah.
So
definitely.
Yeah.
And it also makes sense if she's, I mean, I don't know, she's got a little brother, but she's got bigger siblings. And so, I mean,
right. Because the diamond cleaner is the older brother.
The eldest. Yeah. But like, I know as the youngest in our family, I was prone to hero worship. So, and I think that's common among younger siblings. So
yeah. All right, let's talk about Once Upon a Time, because
Once Upon a Time
don't have forever.
Yeah.
So, okay, I just want to say, as a huge Gaiman fan, not as big as they come, for sure. There are many who are more dedicated. I see you. And I think that Neil Gaiman is among the best storytellers of our generation. Just such a great storyteller. And that Gaiman put his stamp of approval on this TV show by voicing God is just so satisfying on so many levels.
So meta.
Just so many levels that he agreed to do the voiceover as God. A little confusing now that I know Dennis Haysbert is God, but I didn't know that when I was watching it here.
So just having said that, I just had this thought. Another one of the greatest storytellers of our generation is Jordan Peele, and I just realized I now need Neil Gaiman and Jordan Peele to cooperate.
Oh, wow, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. That would be incredible.
Anyway, so universe, make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also the meta message at the end, where it's like a child
a parent wants what's best for their child.
Best for their child. And so that's God talking about Lucifer. That's talking about John Decker and Chloe Decker, but that's also Neil Gaiman talking about his intellectual child this is.
And Gaiman has,
particularly since there are so many people who are like, "Oh, this is not."
Oh, right. Lucifer. People want to gatekeep on Gaiman's work, and Gaiman he shuts that down. No one gets to gatekeep Sandman. He says no, which is the original source material for this Lucifer. I am just so. I mean, talk about hero worship. Like, the guy just gets it, and he gets what art is and what it's for. And yeah, I agree. I don't know that I made that connection before you just said it, but it's really, really deeply resonating for me. Yeah. There were things that I liked very much about this episode, and there were other things that just I don't know. It just wasn't
like Linda's cleavage.
Oh, I liked her cleavage.
I liked her cleavage too. I did not like her glasses.
Yeah, I didn't like her glasses. They were very old-fashioned, like 1970s looking. I also I don't know. I didn't really like where Linda was. I mean, I wasn't supposed to like where Linda was in this alternate universe.
What was interesting to me about Linda in this alternate universe is, Neil Gaiman as God says, might choose make immoral choices, but still have the same conscience. And it made me realize, because she does things that are kind of unethical in our universe, but never immoral.
Yeah.
And that actually, like, that was an interesting thing for me to realize. Like, she does, for the most part, what's best for her patients, with the possible exception of sleeping with Lucifer. But at the time, it didn't really matter for him.
Right.
And then once it did, she stopped.
Right.
And so, whereas what she might have been doing in that universe may have been ethically okay. I don't know. I mean, if that's ethically dubious, I don't know. But it was definitely immoral.
Yeah.
It was definitely not right for her patient.
No. Yeah.
Yeesh. Yeah, I find her story arc is upsetting. Dan and Charlotte's is interesting in that in that universe they get a happy ending, except that they don't, because they'll both end up in hell. And Trixie obviously doesn't exist.
Right.
But there's a little part of me that's glad that in some universe they get to have fun together, even if he's awful and she's kind of awful.
Yeah.
But there's something within him and something within her that finds each other. In the same way that there's something within Lucifer and something within Chloe that finds each other, no matter what universe they're in. I have to say, casting-wise, the actor playing her dad, the first time I saw this, I was like, man, that makeup is amazing, because I was certain
it was the same dude.
It was the exact same actor, who's actually Leslie Ann Brandt's husband.
Oh.
Yeah, who plays John Decker as a young man. But no, that's a different actor. Like, it's an older man, and I have no idea how they found someone who looks exactly like.
Oh, hello, cat.
Sorry.
Cat butt.
Sorry about that. You're lucky it was just his tail, because he sometimes acts like he wants to start an OnlyFans. So yeah, like, because every time I see it, I go like, how is this guy look just like him? And maybe if I watch them back to back, like,
you wouldn't think so.
Episode, I wouldn't think so. But every time I'm just like, he looks exactly like John Decker.
Yeah. So
I appreciate that he is able at the end to say, like, this is not about you, it's about me.
He's like, the John Decker that we get here is very mature and enlightened. Or he gets to be. At the very end, they give him a very enlightened
although
speech.
The way he treats her prior to that is pretty.
I know. That's what I say. He gets to be.
Yeah,
he gets there.
Yeah. And like, his rationale actually, as a parent, makes sense to me. But
yes, and she's supposed to be like 35. Yeah.
I know.
I mean, I'm sorry, but you don't get to say go home to your 35-year-old daughter. No. I mean, our dad's not saying anything to us, so
yeah.
I guess I would take it.
Yeah. And yeah, I just the particularly since she's not clear on acting being the right thing for her, I just
and the like, your mom told me to remind you to remind them to film from your best side. Like, ew.
Ugh.
Ew.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, and no, like, that's part of season 1 when we first meet Penelope. That's
the overbearing stage mother. Yeah.
The overbearing stage mother thing, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, it's gross.
I would hate that so much. So, and clearly she does. I mean, one of the things that I thought that I really liked in this alternate universe is when they're going after, although they didn't go very far, but they're going after the guy stealing the Porsche, and Lucifer goes to drive. She's like, no, I have literally been trained
for this.
this is kind of cool because she has been like, I'm sure she's had some sort of driver training and stuff like that. Although, how much of that do they actually have the actors do?
Yeah. The thing that bothered me is that she came to the NASCAR set from this movie franchise that I'm imagining is like a cross between Fast and the Furious and something else. And she's using the character's name and nobody but Lucifer recognizes her. I don't buy it.
Yeah. I was like, why wouldn't she use a different name? But then I was thinking like, it probably actually has Bonnie Gennaro written on it. So she felt like she had to use that name, but you could just flash it and then.
I mean, it said property of Warner Brothers
on the back. I know.
I don't, that like, that gave me pause in my overthinking that like, I mean, if Dwayne The Rock Johnson or if Vin Diesel showed up at a, at a racetrack and tried to use his name from the movies, like people would be like, oh, it's Vin Diesel. Somebody besides Lucifer.
The thing is, though, I think she's supposed to be like still a relatively minor character in the franchise.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Not after 5. Like it's a whole
5 movies. Yeah, and she uses the. I don't know if you noticed, she used the. They have a lot of Easter eggs in there, so like she uses the weaponizer catchphrase on my watch.
Yep.
And then at NASCAR, they're sponsored by Top Meat, which is that.
Right, that's the meeting, the singles, the dating app for rich people, exclusive people.
Yeah,
top hats.
So.
I think especially because it's Weaponizer, which in our universe is a successful like martial arts franchise. Like I think she's meant to be a movie star.
Yeah.
I mean, she did go to Lux without crazy paparazzi, so maybe I don't know, but that feels like a piece that the writers were like, oh, just do it,
just go with it, just work with us here.
She's a movie star who nobody recognizes. I don't know,
because that happens. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, maybe all the NASCAR people have face blindness or something. I don't know.
Well, or maybe it's just no, I'm thinking like NASCAR.
They would watch the Weaponizer.
Would watch the Weaponizer. I was like, maybe there's no crossover. No, there's.
Especially if it's like Fast and Furious, which is the implication I got, with the fancy car and stuff that she was supposed to drive the next day. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh, I do want to, like, in this universe, how did Ella get to Los Angeles in this universe?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, her younger brother was like stealing cars and stuff, so maybe she still went with him. It's just instead of to take care of him, she went to help him. I don't know.
To work with him. Yeah. So, because I found. Well, first of all, I love her look.
Oh my god, with the tattoo sleeve and the like 1940s. Yeah. Ugh. Adorable.
I love that. And she had the big hoop earrings too.
Well, that was very like leaning into the Latina. I mean, that is like a very stereotypical Latina look with the big hoops.
But it looks amazing with that kind of 1940s. Oh my god. Yeah. Love that look. And then she was just it made sense that would be who she was in an alternate universe. Like she'd be just as nerdy, in a way,
just as smart and capable,
and just in a different direction. So, and I'd love to see like our Ella get the tattoo sleeve because it looks amazing. I mean, if she wants it. So yeah, I really appreciated that. And then there's just a very little bit of Amenadiel in this episode.
Because he's presumably like just flying around waiting for Lucifer.
But it does give us a little bit of a glimpse into who Amenadiel is
without the influence of Lucifer and humans. Yes.
And that is someone who can be influenced by his brother, because he tries to take his advice and chickens out, and that's, I don't know, there's something kind of
endearing,
very endearing about that.
Yeah.
So
I think it's time for some fluff.
Okay.
Because we've been talking for like 40 minutes now.
Have we really? Yeah, we have. Okay. All right. What fluff do you have? Because I'm not sure I have any.
Oh, shoot. Okay, so here's like a little prurient fluff. The scene when John Decker catches up to Chloe and she's like, what is he doing? And he's been in the trailer for a long time. And then finally we realize what he's doing. Like, he actually says, yes, say my name. which I'm blushing, which feels like a, I don't know. It sort of doesn't feel in keeping with Lucifer's like sexual persona. And and at the same time, I found it totally titillating.
Here's the thing, though. He reflects the other person's desires. And so if her desire was,
I mean, she was yelling his name.
Dominated. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. So that and then like the like lipstick prints all over his bare chest as he comes out of it. And like John's I pumped her. For information. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's so, yeah, that was I also appreciated the way that John Decker referred to him as that mentally ill nightclub owner. Is what he described him. Like, please don't tell me you're hanging out with that guy. Like, oh, and it's worse. I'm just like, yeah, that's gotta be like, as embarrassing as it'd be to be a 35-year-old woman and have your dad say, go home. Go home and then see that.
I mean, at least it wasn't Chloe and
it was Chloe and him. Yeah.
You know, I guess.
Oh my goodness. Well, and then he was like, well, she just put her ankles around my neck. Like, I don't want to know this. Like, but she's not injured.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And I guess the other little piece of fluff is like, to make sure we knew it was an alternate universe, the Corvette was red. Right? Like when Spock had the mustache. It was evil Spock. But like, they showed us in that throwback prequel episode when he stole the Corvette, it was black. And like, John not getting shot wouldn't have changed the color of the car.
Maybe he got it painted.
Maybe he had it painted. Yeah.
Because, like, theoretically, John not getting shot wouldn't have affected Ella.
True.
So, I mean, it's one of those butterfly effect things. So instead of it being the black car, like that was what he found, it was a red one.
True. Yeah. Okay.
So, because
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll give that to them.
Also, very convenient that he happens to be wearing the waistcoat. It just wasn't the vest. It just wasn't buttoned up. So he like buttoned it to cover the bullet holes. Like, that was very convenient. Also, as I mentioned with the bullets that Charlotte took, exit wounds. I mean, does his celestial body just like absorb the lead and like, I don't know, turn it into energy or something? Or like, are there holes in the back of his blazer?
Well,
too?
I'm imagining like it gets through the shirt and then stops with his skin.
And so then like, just sort of falls?
Yeah.
Okay. So he has to like clean him out of his belt. his waistband, like
stuck in his underwear.
His waistband, he has to shake him out. His flattened bullets.
Okay, I do. That does remind me of one thing about John Decker being overprotective. After he got a bullet that he survived, it's also much more understandable why he would push Chloe away from the idea of becoming a cop.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah. Agreed.
And I do like the way that voiceover by Neil Gaiman is said, it's hard to say whether he's saying like he moved the bullet and this is the alternate universe, or he moved the bullet and that's like, I don't know. There's a little bit of like.
Oh, you mean like he made John die? Ooh.
Yeah. And I was primed to think that because I just read someone saying about like, like, oh, that's not okay. And I'm like, is that how and I don't think that's how
that is not how I heard it. I heard it that this is an alternate universe where he didn't die. Where John didn't die.
Because but in order for this alternate universe to happen, God did have to interfere and move the bullet up.
Which presumably God could have done in our universe.
Yes. Yeah. Which is kind of...
I mean, that is the ultimate cosmological dilemma. If God is good, if God is great, then God can't be good. And if God is good, then God can't be great. Because why would God let all this happen? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to go now. I am being summoned. All right.
I'm going to be imagining like Lucifer just like shaking bullets out of his
waistband
legs as he walks.
Nice. I like it. All right. See you next week.